the Wild West. Just as the name suggests, it was full of outlaws, gunfights, and countless deaths between the legendary gunslingers. It gave birth to some of the most ruthless fighters. But how exactly did they die? Today we're covering notorious Wild West legends like Butch Cassidy, Jesse James, and Buffalo Bill Cody, and uncovering their final moments. Stick to the end because some of these will shock you. Billy the Kid. While the name includes the Kid, by the age of 18, Billy the Kid, or Henry McCarty, also known as William Bonney, was famous enough to have rangers all over his back. Firstly, Billy was a charming guy with a smile as deadly as a revolver bullet. In some reports, we see that he has killed as many as 21 men, one for every year of his short life, but historians have always believed that this number was close to none. So, what exactly was the issue with Billy the Kid? Firstly, he was involved in New Mexico's Lincoln County War, and the kid was first arrested for stealing food at the age of 16 in 1875. Pretty problematic, right? Just 10 days later, he robbed a Chinese laundry and was arrested again, but escaped shortly afterwards. After moving to the New Mexico territory, he made himself an outlaw and a federal fugitive. By 1877, everyone started calling him William H. Bonney, and the guy's confidence skyrocketed. During this decade, he went on a rampage, killing even the innocent ones and making a name for himself. It wasn't till 1881 when Sheriff Pat Garrett caught him, and Billy was sentenced to death by hanging. However, he wasn't finished yet. He slipped out of the jail, killing 2 guards in his escape, and for 3 months straight, Garrett hunted him relentlessly. Finally, in July 1881, Garrett found out that Billy was in Pete Maxwell's ranch in Fort Sumner, New Mexico. In the room of Maxwell's bedroom, Billy jumped on and asked in Spanish, "Who is it?" The response? It was gunfire that killed Billy, who died at the prime age of 21. Much like other notorious Wild West wanted legends, Billy the Kid refused to give up to the ops and instead chose the way of death. Butch Cassidy. When you hear the name Butch Cassidy, I am sure you recall the famous movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Robert Leroy Parker, also known as Butch Cassidy, was an American train and bank robber and also the leader of a gang of criminal outlaws known as the Wild Bunch. Pretty sick name if you ask me. Cassidy engaged in criminal activity for more than a decade without being caught. But in the early 20th century, the pressure of being pursued by law enforcement made him flee the United States. Together with the Sundance Kid and his girlfriend Etta Place, he went to Argentina and then Bolivia. Moving back to his criminal career, around 1880, Cassidy journeyed to a clothier shop in another town, only to find out that it was closed. So, he broke into the shop and stole a pair of jeans and some pie. He also left a note saying that he promised to pay on the next visit. But then came the years 1889 to 1895, because Cassidy's first bank robbery took place. He, Warner, and 2 of the McCarty brothers robbed the San Miguel Valley Bank in Telluride. The robbers stole around $21,000, which is roughly $735,000 in today's currency, after which they ran away to the Robbers' Roost, which was a remote hideout in southeast Utah. In 1890, Cassidy got himself a ranch on the outskirts of Dubois. And once again, in 1896, Cassidy, Lay, Logan, and Bob Meeks, the members of the Wild Bunch, robbed a bank in Idaho for roughly $7,000. He also recruited the Sundance Kid into the gang soon after. From being a regular boy to the most wanted outlaw by 1901, life became quite exhausting because Cassidy was always on the run from the government. After moving to Argentina, he was living quietly, but as they say, old habits die hard. He committed another robbery by robbing a payroll near San Vicente, Bolivia. That's where the story took a wrong turn. Surrounded by Bolivian cavalry in a small house, a shootout began, and by nightfall, 2 bodies were found inside. One had a bullet to the temple, and the other to the forehead. Official reports claimed that they were Cassidy and Sundance. However, even after his death, a lot of people swore that they saw him return to Utah and Wyoming under a false name. And some family members also claimed that they saw him in 1920. Did Butch Cassidy really die? Or did he just slip back into the shadows to give himself a calm and cozy life? Belle Starr. Many would think that females would have been completely oppressed back in the warring times, right? Wrong. Known as the Bandit Queen due to her crimes, Belle Starr, also known as Myra Maybelle Shirley Reed Starr, was convicted of numerous thefts, which ultimately led to her demise. In 1889, she married a Cherokee man named Sam Starr and settled with his family. There, she learned ways of organizing, planning, and fencing for the rustlers, horse thieves, and bootleggers. But in 1882, things took a dark turn when both Sam and Belle were charged with horse theft. The arrest warrant was served by Deputy U.S. Marshal Lemuel Marks. Indeed, the woman was found guilty and had to serve 9 months at the Detroit House of Corrections. Suddenly, she became a model prisoner, and during her time in jail, she won everyone's respect. However, in 1886, she had another theft charge. After her husband died, Belle herself couldn't escape this fate. On February 3, 1889, while riding home in Oklahoma, Belle was ambushed and shot in the back twice. She fell from the horse and died on the roadside. Who killed her? No one knows. Some say it was her neighbor, with whom she often fought, while others say it was her son, Ed Reed, Bat Masterson. If there were an award for the best character development, it would be given to none other than Bat Masterson. Bartholomew. Bat Masterson lived 2 distinct lives. In his youth, he was a buffalo hunter, an Army scout, and a master gunslinger. As sheriff of Dodge City, he helped make one of the rowdiest towns in the West Stable. Bat also fought the famous Battle of Adobe Walls, where he was one of the only 28 hunters to defend the outpost during the attack. The Comanche suffered the most losses during the battle, with reports ranging from 30 to 70 people. The defenders of Adobe Walls, including Bat, were only 4 and standing still. While Bat was a model man and always resorted to restoring peace, it came with early consequences because his brother Ed was killed in the line of duty. However, instead of going rogue against the killers and wanting to take revenge from the bad guys like most of his peers, Bat grew tired of violence. In middle age, he traded the gun belt for pen and paper to become a sports writer in New York City. There, he even befriended President Theodore Roosevelt and worked as a U.S. Marshal. Unlike many other Wild West legends, Bat Masterson's death wasn't as dramatic, but it was surely tragic. On October 25, 1921, at the age of 67, Masterson died at his desk from a massive heart attack after writing what became his final column for the Morning Telegraph. The man who survived countless gunfights and outlaws met his demise at a desk in the heart of Manhattan. Pretty heartbreaking, I would say. Calamity Jane. When we discuss the rough and rowdy female who was exactly the opposite of how Hollywood portrays a heroine, Calamity Jane comes to mind. Instead of wearing feminine clothes, she dressed like a man, swore like a soldier, and drank as much as a man would. She even claimed to have scouted for the Army, worked for Pony Express, and had been a close companion of Wild Bill Hickok. Shortly after her shocking reputation, she became a celebrity in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, beloved for her skills and her personality. However, her lifestyle started taking a toll on her. Working with Bill Hickok on many missions, she had an interesting run. However, after Bill's death, Jane claimed that she went after his murderer, who was Jack McCall, with a meat cleaver because she had left her guns at her residence. After McCall's execution, Jane started living in the Deadwood area, where she saved numerous passengers in an overland stagecoach that Plains Indians were hunting. The vehicle's driver was killed in that attack, but Calamity Jane took over the driving seat and drove the stage to its final destination in Deadwood. By 1878, she became a hero because she nursed the victims of a smallpox epidemic in the area. And finally, her addiction to liquor was getting too much, even in her younger years. By 1903, Jane became unstoppable when it came to her drinking habit, and then she fell ill. Her health deteriorated quickly, and she died at the hotel on August 1, 1903, from inflammation of the bowels and pneumonia. After her death, she was buried right next to Wild Bill Hickok in Deadwood, and both calamities were buried together. Jesse James. Some call him the most badass cowboy, while others call him nothing but a big ball of trouble. Jesse's story teaches us a valuable lesson. Never trust anyone, not even the closest friends. Jesse James West was a Confederate guerrilla turned outlaw who led a gang that robbed banks, stagecoaches, and trains across the Midwest. For over a decade, he avoided capture, and thanks to his cool persona along with his charisma, he was a folk hero to some while a villain to others. However, his death didn't come from any lawmen or rangers killing him, but from a betrayal. By the 1880s, most of his loyal gang members were either dead or jailed. That's where Jesse started recruiting newcomers, including his brothers Robert and Charles Ford. What Jesse didn't know was that there was a $10,000 bounty on his head, and the Fords were quite tempted. On April 3, 1882, Jesse James stood on a chair at his home in St. Joseph, adjusting a picture frame. Behind him, Bob Ford, one of his friends, drew his pistol and fired into the back of Jesse's skull, killing him instantly. Bob wasn't celebrated. Instead, he was called a snitch and a murderer for killing one of the biggest historical names of all time. Karma hit Bob, too. Just 10 years later, he himself was shot dead in a saloon. But the story of Jesse was rather sad and melancholic. In his final years, he was already feeling nothingness. Maybe it was time for one of Wild West's biggest legends to go away, Buffalo Bill Cody. Unlike the most popular Wild West legends, William Buffalo Bill Cody wasn't famous for his crime or for being an outlaw, but for being the best entertainer of his time. He had a traveling show called Buffalo Bill's Wild West, where he brought some of the most skilled sharpshooters, cowboys, and Native American performers. They would perform all over the world, and that helped depict a certain image in the eyes of other nations, like the Europeans or Asians, of how Americans actually are. We have seen many movies on Buffalo Bill Cody, his amazing achievements, and how rich he got with his show. However, even legends cannot escape mortality, as on January 10, 1917, Cody died of kidney failure at the age of 70. His final wish was to be buried on top of Lookout Mountain in Colorado, where he could watch over the plains forever. However, deep snow made the mountain road impassable, which is why his dead body was kept in cold storage for 6 months until a spring burial was possible. Such a sad end for a huge legend. And that marks the end of the video, guys. If you want to see more interesting Wild West videos on our channel, make sure to like and subscribe, and ring the bell icon so you're notified first.